Washington, D.C. bans dancing. Gubernatorial races in Florida and California heat up. And there's turmoil in the GOP. That and more on this week's headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Daily Peanut. The news can be a tough pill to swallow. That's why Daily Peanut gives you a daily dose of news in equal parts humor and substance. Speaking of news, we may finally be seeing the light at the end of the coronavirus tunnel. The CDC projects a sharp decline in COVID-19 cases by July. And the U.S. and France are in favor of easing patent protections on vaccines, which could help poorer countries get more doses and speed up the end of the pandemic worldwide. Coronavirus variants and some logistics could cause issues, but ultimately, things are looking optimistic. And if this news makes you feel like getting up and dancing, then sit down and stop having fun immediately, you hooligan. Because Washington, D.C.'s new social distancing rules ban standing and dancing at weddings. Illinois and Michigan have similar bans on dancing. And I know what you're thinking. Yes, this is basically the plot to Footloose, which makes the story especially sad for Jewish weddings, since the only man who can save them is Kevin Bacon. And bacon's not kosher. Maybe they can find a Kevin Turkey Bacon. My question is, why ban dancing when there are so many better things to ban at weddings? While you're at it, why don't you also ban cash bars, young children, proposing to your girlfriend, excessive toasts, lame jokes in the vows, photo booths with fake mustaches, photo booths in general, father-daughter dances with creepy song choices, bouquet tosses, garter tosses, bad DJs, good DJs, people named DJ, cover bands that try to slip in one of their original songs, and the speak now or forever hold your peace part, since we all know this isn't going to work out, so why tempt us to list exactly why? Most marriages don't work out. If you need anecdotal proof of that, this week, Bill and Melinda Gates announced they are ending their marriage after 27 years. In identical tweets, they said, "We have raised 3 incredible children and built a foundation that works all over the world to enable all people to lead healthy, productive lives. We ask for space and privacy for our family as we begin to navigate this new life." Oh, they're asking for privacy? That's easy. All they have to do is go to Settings, click on Privacy and Security, and check the box that says, "You should have thought about that before mining our data." Bill Gates may be worth $150 billion, but asking for privacy? That's rich. The saddest part of the story is that in a few months, Melinda Gates will have to borrow a friend's Microsoft Office login like the rest of us. That's not actually true, because the former couple announced they would keep working together at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which definitely won't be awkward. Also, according to reports, the couple doesn't have a prenup. Wait. Melinda Gates may soon be worth $75 billion? Hey, Melinda, I hear you're single now. Wanna share my Microsoft Office login? The Department of Homeland Security is considering partnering with private firms to monitor extremist groups online, according to CNN. In a statement, the DHS denied this, saying, "All of our work to address the threat of domestic terrorism is done consistent with the Constitution and other applicable law, and in close coordination with our privacy and civil liberties experts." Which I definitely believe. The only person who cares more about citizens' privacy than the Department of Homeland Security is Bill Gates. Right now, Homeland Security is limited in how they're allowed to monitor citizens. They can only view publicly available information, such as Facebook and Twitter profiles. But according to CNN sources, so make of that what you will, the plan being discussed is to partner with research firms that have more visibility in this space. In other words, private companies have access to your data because you didn't read their privacy agreements. And if those companies just happen to share your data with the government for a hefty fee, then it technically doesn't violate the Constitution. It's a complex scenario. On the one hand, this could make it easier to identify and potentially stop extremists. But on the other hand, there's that pesky Fourth Amendment getting in the way. But with this plan, the DHS can get around that, which is amazing, since I didn't realize you can get around amendments through outsourcing. Can they do that with other amendments? They could ignore the Second Amendment simply by hiring Magneto to take people's guns. They could break the Sixth Amendment's right to a fair and speedy trial by outsourcing to a detention camp in another country where prisoners are held indefinitely without ever receiving a trial. Oh wait, we already do that. But hey, the government would only use this program to go after white supremacists, which is fine, because I'm sure they'd stop there. More after the break. Welcome back. On Tuesday, Representative Charlie Crist announced his candidacy for governor of Florida. Again. Crist was the governor of Florida from 2007 to 2011 as a Republican. Then, instead of running for re-election, he switched to being an independent and ran for U.S. Senate, which he lost to Republican Marco Rubio. Then, Crist became a Democrat and ran for governor again in 2014, which he lost to the incumbent Republican Rick Scott. Then Crist ran for the House of Representatives, and he finally won an election. This will be Crist's second attempt to regain his old job as governor, although it sounds like his job is actually just running for office, any office. If this doesn't work, maybe he can try running next time as a Libertarian for the Tallahassee School Board. Speaking of Florida, on Thursday, current Republican Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill that he said would prevent voter fraud, and critics said was actually voter suppression. Wait, why does this story sound so familiar? Oh yeah, it's basically the exact same thing happening in Georgia, which I already covered. If it plays out the same way as it did in Georgia, we can expect statements condemning this bill to come from Florida's biggest industries: Disney World, Publix grocery stores, and spring break wet t-shirt contests, because that industry has integrity. The Florida governor also signed a bill this week that blocks all local COVID-19 restrictions as of July 1st. He also signed an executive order that immediately suspends local emergency orders until the law takes effect. When signing the bill, DeSantis said, "We're no longer in a state of emergency. People are going to be able to make decisions, and they have the wherewithal to protect themselves with vaccines if they want. Because nothing says we hate big government like using state government to overrule city government. I'm just waiting for the federal government to step in and overrule the state government, overruling the city governments. Then, the world government, run by the lizard Illuminati, can come in and overrule the federal government, overruling the state government, overruling the city government. That way, we can have a full Russian nesting doll of government overreach." And yes, we made that reference because you can't report on Republicans these days without mentioning Russia at least once. Also, I'm obviously joking. Everyone knows that Joe Biden and Ron DeSantis are part of the lizard Illuminati. Wake up, sheeple! In governor news on the other side of the country, Caitlyn Jenner released her first campaign ad as she runs as a Republican candidate for governor of California. She'll be running in this year's recall election of current governor Gavin Newsom.
This past year has redefined our career politicians as elitists and the people of California as the warriors, the kings, and the angels.
Yeah, because if there's anyone that understands the plight of the lower class struggling against elitists, it's someone who's worth $100 million and constantly hangs out with billionaires. And yet, I'm just kidding. Kylie Jenner isn't a billionaire anymore. She's only worth $700 million now. What a loser. I'm only interested in ladies with at least 3 commas in their net worth. Hi again, Melinda. I know a lot of people are thinking that with more than 20 candidates running in the California recall election, there's no way a celebrity would win. And yet, I say, how can Caitlyn Jenner not win? The left can't resist voting for the first transgender governor. And Republicans would never vote for a Democrat. And I know she's a rich reality TV star with no political experience whatsoever. Someone like that could never be elected to office in America. And yet, more after the break. Welcome back. Charges have been dismissed against 58 of the 97 people arrested during the riots in Portland last year, and 32 pending cases are also likely to end in dismissal. 7 people have pleaded guilty, and of those, only 1 is going to go to prison. Former federal prosecutor Alex Little says the reason why may be the legal system isn't really set up to handle those sorts of numbers. In other words, incompetence, my favorite form of justice. Meanwhile, people are still being charged months later after the January 6th storming of the Capitol. But most of those defendants are also likely to serve little to no jail time. Former federal public defender Erica Hashimoto says it's because one of the core values of this country is that we can protest if we disagree with our government. Of course, some protests involve criminal acts, but as long as the people who are trying to express their view do not engage in violence, misdemeanors may be more appropriate than felonies. So Portland and Capitol rioters are both likely to get off with few or no consequences. Yet, the media portrays both groups very differently. Rioters in D.C., dangerous insurrectionists. Rioters in Portland, passionate protesters. If this teaches us anything, it's that in the eyes of the public, hipsters just aren't that threatening. The people that stormed the Capitol wouldn't have been judged so harshly if they grew beards, got a bunch of unfortunate tattoos, and wore ridiculous hats. And I know you're probably thinking, what about this guy? He was close, but the gloves and the American flag gave him away. With those, he looks like Mumford and Sons of Anarchy. As bad as January 6th was, it could have been worse. Thank goodness the people storming D.C. weren't dancing at the time. If they were, then they'd really be in trouble. Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheny's leadership position in the GOP may be in peril. Donald Trump has endorsed Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of New York to replace Cheny. Cheny and Trump have clashed this past week, with Trump posting on his From the Desk of Donald J. Trump personal social media feed, the fraudulent presidential election of 2020 will be, from this day forth, known as the Big Lie. And Cheny, responding in a tweet, saying Trump's assertion the election was stolen is the big lie. And then Trump called Cheny a warmongering fool. Trump is communicating to his base in essentially a blog because Facebook and Instagram upheld their bans on him Wednesday. And can I just say, I think banning Trump is a bad idea. Because if Trump isn't able to use Facebook and Instagram for 8 hours a day, then he won't have to suffer from chronic depression like the rest of us. Liz Cheny is losing support from several other members of the GOP as well, with House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy saying, "I have heard from members concerned about her ability to carry out the job as conference chair to carry out the message." Liz Cheny isn't the only Republican facing backlash from her own party. At the Utah Republican Convention, Republican Trump rival Mitt Romney was booed by the crowd.
Now, you know me as a person who says what he thinks, and I don't hide the fact that I wasn't a fan of our last president's character issues.
President Biden referred to the turmoil in the GOP as a mini-revolution.
It seems as though the Republican Party is trying to identify what it stands for. And they're in the midst of a significant sort of mini-revolution.
What do you mean identify what it stands for? Everyone knows what Republicans stand for. They hate big government. Except when it's them. It seems any Republican not loyal to Trump is in danger of losing their power and being ousted. That might sound very Game of Thrones-ish, but honestly, all this drama is much more like high school. OMG, did you hear Liz totally diss Donald? He's going off on her on his social meds. And while all that is going on, 2/3 of Americans are watching it and thinking, hey, I can't afford health care. Glad our politicians have their priorities in order. And this episode is sponsored by Daily Peanut. If you want more daily news, and not just a single 15-minute video, check out Daily Peanut. It's a bunch of fast, timely news stories selected for you and available to read on your phone, tablet, or computer. Reading Daily Peanut is an easy way to filter out the noise and learn more about the world news that matters. Join more than 250,000 other readers. Education and entertainment delivered right to your inbox every morning. And the best part is, it's free. So sign up for Daily Peanut now. Use the link in the description below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.